welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Clouds, nice to meet you. So in today's video, I'm actually going to be talking about management consulting for the first time, really. And I'm going to be giving you guys a very brief and consolidated overview of what management consulting actually is and what grad roles in the UK related to management consulting look like. And it's kind of like a guidance video, a 101 video for anyone who is perhaps interested in applying to consulting grad roles in the UK. And not just in the UK, I'm pretty sure this video is quite applicable to any region. It's like a very broad, high-level overview of what management and slash strategy consulting is. So yes, if you're interested, then please keep on watching and let's just get straight into the video. So the first question is, what actually is management consulting? If I just go onto Wikipedia and read out the straight definition that they have there, it says management consulting is the practice of helping organizations to improve their performance. Organizations may draw upon the services of management consultants for a number of reasons, including gaining external advice, access to consultants' specialized expertise. If this doesn't make sense to you, to put it in very simple terms, management consultants are basically someone who you hire to come into your company for a set period of time to help you with a specific business problem. This could be very high level, so a very strategic business problem. Why are we not making profits? How do we expand into this new market? How do we expand into a new geography? Or it could be something a lot more detailed, like we want this technology to be implemented. Can you please come and help us with steps A, B, C, and D to make sure that we have this end-to-end operation plan in place to help us implement this project? So yeah, it can be very varied. In very basic terms, a management consultant is basically a doctor for your business who you hire to come and diagnose a problem and help you provide a solution. So now that we know what management consulting actually is, what does a consultant actually do on a day-to-day basis or in the project? So there is basically a lot of client interaction involved within this job. Of course, once you get hired to go into this client company, there is a lot of stakeholder communication within that. And just in general, there's definitely a lot of problem solving and a lot of sales components in management consulting as well. But to be honest, it really depends on what kind of industry you're in. So within management consulting, there's actually a matrix that you could put it in, I guess, to actually classify what kind of industry and what kind of sector your consultancy is in. So the way the market works in this matrix with consulting companies is you can have consulting companies that are a lot more based on strategy versus companies that are a lot more based on implementation. And then you'll also find that some companies are a lot more generalist and some companies are a lot more specialist. So if you draw out this Y and X axis, you can then plot companies that are like specialists and also strategy focused, and then you can find companies that are strategy focused but more of a generalists. And then you can also have the opposite, which you can find companies that are more based on implementation but then very generalist, and then companies that are based on implementation but then very much so specialist. And these different quadrants, I guess, will differ massively on the kind of job that you do, because the sale of the company to clients will be different. For example, if you go on the strategy side of the matrix, in that quadrant, you'll actually find all the big strategy houses that are known within consulting. The MBB sit here. So McKinsey, BCG, and Bain & Company, these three companies are good examples of what strategy houses are like. If you look into the more implementation side of consulting, you'll find the big four here. So this is KPMG, EY, PwC, and Deloitte. These are good examples of companies that do consulting but more operational based and implementation based. So yeah, basically when you're applying to consulting, you should try to understand what kind of consulting you want to do. Is it more strategy focused or is it more operation focused? And that will kind of allow you to position yourself within these four quadrants, and then you can target the companies that you want to apply that are within that specific division of consulting that you want to do. Alright, now that I give you guys a good overview of what the consulting market looks like and what it actually means to be a consultant, let's talk specifics about graduate roles within this industry. So in general, a starting position for a graduate will usually either be of a business analyst or an associate consultant. These are usually the roles, and they're kind of synonymous to each other, but companies tend to interchange between these two terms, but they're pretty much the same role. And when you're applying to companies, you will be applying to these positions. So either a business business analyst or an associate consultant. Some other companies might call it an actual consultant. Everyone has different terms for it, but the most common ones is analyst and associate consultants. And usually starting off at this role, you'll be here for about 2 years on average until you get promoted to a consultant. Your next question may be, what do entry-level positions in a consulting company usually do? So usually all the background supporting stuff that needs to be done and needs to be organized and compiled when a company is selling work or when a company is, implementing a solution is what an analyst / an associate consultant will be doing. Of course, this really depends from company to company. Some companies give their analysts / associate consultants a lot more exposure. Some companies don't give you that much exposure until you climb up the ranks a little bit more. But I can speak for myself and the people who I know who also work within consulting, all in different companies than me as well. So just comparing across the market, I would say it's very popular for entry-level consultants to be working on PowerPoint decks, Excel sheets, due diligence, and market analysis. With that being said, you definitely do get a lot of client interaction. You do get put in meetings with C-suite level executives at an analyst level, I think pretty much at every single consulting firm. And as you start climbing through the ranks and deepening your expertise and your experience within consulting, you will then start to get opportunities to actually build your own relationships with these clients, which is actually very exciting and something that I look forward to as well within consulting. So just to give you guys a very brief pros and cons list of working within consulting. Why would someone want to work in consulting and why would someone not want to work in consulting, and whether it is appropriate for you specifically. Just to list out the pros first. First of all, there is a lot, as I mentioned, a lot of client interaction and a lot of client engagement within the sector. So if you enjoy the aspect of building relationships with stakeholders, this might be a really good industry for you. Second of all, this industry is composed of project-based work, which means that you go from one project to another project to another project, and that means that you're not only just switching clients every time you switch projects, it also means you're potentially switching industries completely. You're switching your team, so you won't be working with the same team as well. Potentially, you're also switching geographies as well, which kind of makes it seem like you're working a different job every couple of months, which can keep things very exciting, and it doesn't really get monotonous. The third thing that is a pro for consulting is that there is extensive travel involved if you have the appetite for that kind of thing. So if you do want to fly around the world and meet clients and meet different companies, consulting is definitely a good industry for you. And the fourth main pro I'd say about consulting is because you get to work with all these different industries and clients, you can actually start to build a lot of knowledge across the board. So you have a lot of commercial knowledge within a lot of different sectors that is very useful and a very good asset to have, particularly when you're looking at exit opportunities. If you have a breadth of knowledge across a lot of different industries, your options are always going to be quite wide, which is always very good if you want to enter consulting but don't want to stay within consulting, if that makes sense. Let's talk about the cons. First of all, extensive travel isn't for everyone, and consulting does require you to be quite flexible around that. As an analyst or as an associate consultant, that might not be a huge concern, but if you're looking into consulting as someone who is a lot more mature already and has a family, perhaps traveling around the world and having to adapt to this flexibility isn't particularly a good thing. The second con is that it is very demanding work with long hours involved. So because you're providing a solution to a client, sometimes they need things overnight. Sometimes, you have a deadline on Monday, which means that you have to be working through weekends, and that's just the nature of the industry. It's the same thing with banking. It's long hours. And it's a lot of fast-paced and high-pressured environment kind of outputs that you need to be delivering, and it's not the industry for you if you just want to do like a 9 to 5, log off at 5 p.m. and not have to look at your laptop again. That is absolutely not the case if you want to work in consulting. You have to put in the hours, you have to put in the effort to succeed in this industry. The third thing I would say that isn't that great about consulting is the fact that it does have these long hours, so it's very often compared to banking, but the pay is significantly lower than the pay within the banking industry, I'll say. So an investment banking graduate salary in the UK would be around 50k. For consulting in the UK would be around 40k. So it is around, on average, 10k less compared to banking. Banking, I do think, has slightly longer hours, but they're both quite high pressured environments. So if you are looking for that kind of job and you're looking for that kind of environment and you don't mind the long hours, then banking does pay a little bit better than consulting does. The fourth con I would say is the fact that because you're always changing from industry to industry, sometimes you might get stuck in a project that is in an industry that you completely hate. Like the sectors change, so sometimes you will get a sector that is just so boring to you, but you'll have to stick through it because, you know, that's just what consultants have to do. So yeah, given all these pros and cons, it is important to weigh out whether or not this industry is appropriate to you. Alright, now the last thing I'll be talking about in this video very briefly is how to actually get in to consulting. I think a lot of people think it's a quite fascinating industry and they want to become consultants, but how do you actually do that? Now, consulting applications are quite structured. Most of them, at least, like the large companies, have very structured recruitment cycles, and this usually starts around October, so you really have to be on it as soon as the academic year starts. And usually interviews would start around November, December time, and offers would usually be around December/January time. This is for the large Big Fours and the large MBBs, but for boutique companies, they have slightly more unstructured hiring cycles, but it does go from company to company, so I can't really summarize it for you. Also, within consulting applications for graduate positions, you have to prepare case studies, which is hell. It's disgusting, but actually it's a good litmus test to check whether or not you enjoy consulting, because as terrifying as these case study interviews are, I actually really enjoyed solving case studies, and I think that's a good indicator of whether or not you like the industry. So yes, case studies is something you should be preparing, something you should be looking into. I will make a whole video on case studies, but basically start reading up on what case studies are and what case study interviews are like for consulting, and that will give you a head start ahead of application season. Yeah. So yes, that is basically a quick overview of what management consulting is and what it's like to work in the industry and whether or not this industry is appropriate for you. It's basically a management consulting 101 for you guys, and management consulting grad roles explained as well. Hopefully this was a useful video for you guys. I will be making more videos, and do leave any comments down below because I'm not 100% sure what people want to know and what kind of detail you guys want, but hopefully this is a good starter point. So yes, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.